Hello everyone, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with our first ever top 5 video. I've had a look at the ratings on the suggestion video and it looks overwhelmingly positive. There are a couple of people who don't like top 5s, and to those people I apologise, but most people seem to want top 5s, and as a result we're going to do one. So in today's video this is going to be my personal top 5 favourite characters in the 40k universe. Now this could apply to any race. This could be an Imperial character, a Chaos character, Xenos. But just to stop me getting all the love onto one codex, I'm going to limit myself to one character per codex. Quite simply, this is to make sure that I don't pour all the bias into the armies that I play, or have played, or the lore that I have or haven't read. Now, just for balance, I am going to class all Space Marines under one banner. I know that seems weird, because with people like Dante, Azrael, Grimnar, Drago, and then all the others, it is very hard to narrow it down. As a result, I'm going to put all the Space Marines under one banner, so I'm only allowed to pick one Astartes, because I know if I didn't do that, there's a chance I could make a top 5 list consisting all of Marines, because there's so many different codices now for them. So with that said, let's move on to the first top 5. So first up, I want to make a couple of honourable mentions. These are the people who got very close to making it to the list, but just fell short. So the first one is Shadow Captain Shrike. It's an odd Marine choice, I know, but he has the jump pack idea, which I really like. Twin Lightning Claws is something I'm a huge fan of. Twin Lightning Claws, probably because I really like Night Haunter, Comrade Kurz, and his whole outlook with stealth missions is such a parody of the Space Marines in general that I really find him very appealing. Plus his model is good, and the, I forget the name of the book now, Hunt for Voldorius, along with the Damocles book, both really set Shrike in an interesting light compared to the direct hunter that is Corsaro Khan. Another name that came very close to the list was Commander Farsight. He was the only Tau I could nominate because I don't like the standard Tau ideals. But Farsight, as we know, is a colossal badass. He actually fights in melee, and the Farsight Enclave is kind of cool. Plus with the 8 and the Farsight Bomb and all sorts of things, you can do some fun things with his supplement. With that said, let's move on to number 5. In at number 5, representing for the Necrons, we have Nemesor Zandrek. Now, Nemesor Zandrek to me is a very eccentric character. He is a Necron, so he is a machine, but he still, in his mind, believes he is way back in the past, when he was still Necron tier, flesh and blood, and so he holds great feasts where food is just laid out on the table for him to eat, but he can't eat it because he's a machine, but he doesn't know that. And he's fighting wars in his head. The wars he fights are not against Astartes or Orcs or Tyranids, because they didn't exist when the Necron tier were around. They're against old Necron tier enemies. And so he fights with the codes of honor that the Necron tier had, and as a result, he seems to have some amazing tactical brain. He's been through so many wars and fought so many different styles that he can do anything. He has adaptive and counter tactics, or at least he used to do, which made him very, very useful. Plus with Vargard Oberon, who didn't take up a HQ slot when you took him, you have a very cool bodyguard, and the two models together look really cool. Plus when Zandrek is on the board, Oberon basically gains a free teleport, which is very, very cool, and doesn't scatter. So that's why Zandrek's on the list. I was tempted by Orican the Diviner, who can become super powered up, but I gave it to Zandrek for the reasons I've already explained. So with that said, let's move on to number 4. Alright, so in at 4 we have a Dark Eldar representative, and that is a cut character, Lady Malice. Lady Malice was in the 5th edition codex and was cut because she didn't have a model from the 7th edition version, which sucks as far as I'm concerned. So, she is basically immune to Psychic. She had a very good way of denying psychic powers before Deny the Witch was a thing, with her Crystal Heart, which is a really cool story if you bother to read it. She was exploring and she came across this being. She engaged in a game of riddles, where basically forfeited something, I cannot remember exactly what. The creature gave it her its heart. She cut her own heart out and replaced it with this crystal one, which is insanely cool. Plus she is hyper intelligent. It is seemingly that she can read minds. She seems to know exactly what's going on, and the Cabal of the Poisoned Tongue is in a really strong position as a result. The only person she can't read is Vect, but even that was beginning to change at the time. Of course, Vect and Malice have both been cut, so seeing their story develop unfortunately hasn't quite happened. She also seems to have this mysterious companion Dark Elder have reported, listening into her chambers, that there have been 2 voices, even though 1 life sign registers. Obviously, Lady Malice. It is my suspicion that is probably the being of which her heart, to which was its heart, is now her heart, probably talking to her. I'm not sure, but it's a very interesting story nonetheless, and I wish they'd been able to develop it and give her a model, because I'm sure she'd have been an absolute badass in 7th edition. But that's number 4. Let's move on to number 3. In at 3, an Imperial Guard character. And this one might surprise you. I've not gone with Commissar Yarrick. I've gone instead with Ironhand Strachan. Now, Ironhand Strachan is a Catachan commander, and he is an insane badass. This guy is the most badass of the most badass man in the most badass regiment in one of the most badass armies when it's not getting its ass kicked. So you can tell how much of a badass this guy is. I think in a straight fight he will school any human, Yarrick included. I'm putting it out there. In a straight fight, Strachan schools Yarrick, I think. Or at least he used to. I don't know if he still does. He's very well known for never leaving a man behind. He once dragged a wounded trooper across half a continent to rendezvous with the regiment. He's slain monstrous bugs with his bare hands, and he never seeks credit for what he does. One of the great examples was the Dumalin cleansing, where the Catachan II, his regiment basically collapsed an entire Orc war doing covert ops, and were just completely ignored because when the mopping up was done by the next planetary governor, Oshpreen, he basically slated the Catachan seconds as nothing more than savages, meaning they were unceremoniously redeployed. Strachan and that will also collapse an entire cave on top of the war boss, and the war killing it off, and then it was dead. And he nearly died as well, but he is the man of adamantium. This guy basically is half cybernetic. He is a monster. And that means his stats are incredible. His stats are all in the right place. He's stronger, he's tougher, he's a better fighter than any other Guard character. But he's still a great leader. He's a company commander at the end of the day, and that makes him a very powerful part of the force. He can even inspire men around him. It used to give them counterattack and furious charge. I cannot remember what it does in the new book. Plus, one of the most awesome lines that I think I'll ever hear from a Guard character: do I have to do everything myself? What other general says that? Only a Catachan who leads from the front, like Ironhand Strachan. He comes in at number 3. Let's move on to number 2. Coming in number 2 on our list, we have a Chaos character, and I've gone with Typhus. I was tempted by Abaddon, and then Ahriman crossed my mind, but I stuck to my guns and I went with Typhus. I'm a massive fan of the Death Guard. They are my Heresy Legion if I play 30k, and Typhus is different because he was a repressed Psyker. The Death Guard Paramount Mortarion hated Psykers, absolutely hated them. And as a Psyker, Callus Typhon as he was known then, basically had to completely shut his powers down, which was really hard for him to do. He could still do it in game, but if Mortarion was on the board or if Mortarion was around, he would probably not be doing it basically at all, which is kind of cool. He has the Grim Reaper aspect with a giant Death Shroud power scythe, now known as Man Reaper, which is an awesome weapon. It's a force weapon, it's AP2. I think it's unwieldy though, which kind of sucks, but the Death Shroud power scythes in 30k are awesome. You can swap the amount of attacks you have for the number of models you're in base contact with, which as a Terminator could be quite a few. It's a really cool thing nonetheless, although it doesn't work like that in the game. He's also very effective in a variety of close combats. He has the Destroyer Hive, allowing to take on hordes a little bit better. He packs, I believe, a heavy flamer. He certainly used to pack a heavy flamer of some sort in his Terminator armor, which is a cataphractic design, which is, in my opinion, far superior to the Astartes pattern we have today. His model is amazing, let's be honest. It's so intimidating. This guy's coming to get you. He's coming to completely claim your soul and turn you into a zombie. Typhus is the hive for the zombie plague. He is the one that unlocks plague zombies for you, which is amazing. I'm a massive fan of plague zombies and 40k zombies in general. I wish that that was still a thing. We're still trying to develop it. It's very, very slow. We're not having much time, and now obviously I'm at uni, so that's not really a thing anymore. I'm very sorry about that. But Typhus is awesome, zombies are awesome, and 40k zombies is just awesome. So that's at number 2. Let's move on to the number 1 on the list. And coming in at number 1 on my top 5 personal most awesome 40k characters, we have, unsurprisingly, an Orc. What other race was it going to be? But what might surprise you is I'm not going with Ghazghkull. I'm going instead for another cut character from the 7th edition Codex, and that is Wazdakka Guzmek. Wazdakka was awesome. He was a mech, basically, who tinkered with his own awesome custom warbike and was then disqualified from racing on his homeworld. For some reason, he was accused of cheating. He then completely gunned the entire camp down, like butchered the lot with his bike, and then just rode off. Since then, he's been leading a personal crusade, just basically trying to lead the fastest war possible. He's not a leader, but the speed freaks are just attracted to him by his sheer speed. Anyone that can keep up with him is more than welcome to join, but he doesn't care. He's just obsessed with gotta go fast. He is the 40k equivalent of Sonic with no inhibitions. It's awesome. Plus his gun was amazing. It was AP3, I believe, back in the day, which was awesome. 4 shots, twin linked, packed a power claw. And still one of my favorite stories is the story of when he destroyed a Warhammer Titan on his own. Basically, his War was quite obviously bike heavy, and it was getting wrecked by a Titan with its plasma blasters and big footfall, basically wrecking the bikers. And because of the void shields, they couldn't hit it back. They lacked the heavy fire to break them. So while Zaka rode up to the top of a cliff, rode off the cliff, through the void shield, setting himself and his bike on fire, dropping through the canopy of the Titan into the head, butchering the crew while still on fire, and then mounting their skulls, which are still on fire, on his bike. They have never gone out, and that is just incredible. I love that story, and it basically set me on the road to playing Speed Freaks, single-handedly. He made bikers troops, he was awesome. His big weakness though, he had no invulnerable save because he did not have a cyborg body back in the day, meaning you had to take knob bikers with a pain boy in order to give him some survivability, and because he was a mech, he didn't hit quite as hard. He was only toughness 5 rather than 6, I believe, and he was good, but he wasn't the most powerful character on the table for 180 points, but you were taking him to make bikers troops anyway. So that is my top 5 most awesome personal characters in 40k. We've had representations from across a pantheon of races, across Loyalist, Marines, to Guard, Chaos, and of course, Xenos, finishing off with an awesome character. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a suggestion for any future top 5s in the comments below. Until next time, my name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and I'll see you all again.